It's a live broadcast from Canada. I am Sandra Asante. Today we're looking at the quest of the Tigray families in Ethiopia, as well as the deep concerns about sexual violence allegations in Tigray. I'll take a break. I'll be back with more. You're welcome back. So a war broke out in northern Ethiopia's Tigray region at the worst possible time for Abraha Kimfe Gabrimarian and his family. Gunfire crackled near the home of Abraha Kimfe Gabrimarian. He hoped it drowned out the cries of his wife, curled up in pain, and the newborn twin daughters wailing beside her. War had broken out in northern Ethiopia's Tigray region at the worst possible time for Abraha and his family. Their village of Massacre was caught in the first unknown massacre of a grinding conflict that has killed thousands of ethnic Tigrayans like them. Abraha pleaded with his wife, threatened from post-childbirth complications, to be silent. Fearfully, any noise will bring gunmen to his door. His young sons watch in fear. I prayed and prayed. Abraha said, God didn't help me. He was terrified his family wouldn't survive this. 5 months after it began, the war has turned into what witnesses describe as a campaign to destroy the Tigrayan minority. Thousands of families are being shattered. Amid the heartbreak, the sight of the tall, silent man carrying a grimy pink bassinet slugs around his neck with tiny twin girls would still bring out the kindness of strangers, even from the ethnicity targeting them. The bloodshed began in November as Abraha's wife, Latay, enjoyed the final stretch of seemingly normal pregnancy. Hearing gunfire, she and her husband, their son 5-year-old Michael and 11-year-old Daniel, hid in the grass outside. They lay for hours under the hot sun. Don't worry, I am okay, Latay told her husband that night. They crept indoors to sleep. Latay went into a labor the next day. She and Abraha decided to deliver at home. An elderly neighbor from the ethnic group fighting the Tigrayans, the Amaras, agreed to help. Abraha has longed for a daughter. Soon nestled beside his wife, he saw two. His joy was tempered by anxiety as war raged outside, but he soon forgot about the baby. Something was badly wrong with his wife. Her afterbirth wasn't coming out. In agony, she tried to breastfeed the twins but couldn't. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong I did to my God for these troubles, Abraha said sadly. 4 days after Latay delivered her baby, her afterbirth was expelled, but she wept day and night in pain. By now, the family understood they were trapped in a massacre. Ethnicity had become deadly, with reports of both Amara and Tigrayan in Massacre being shot or slaughtered. On the 9th day, Latay beckoned Abraham closer. Look after my baby, she said. I am going to die. I don't have hope. I'm very sorry. She was gone the next day, quite sad. The burial was short. There were no speeches. The churchyard likely was full of fresh graves, but Abraham didn't notice his surroundings. At home, the babies were waiting, washing the tiny dragon girls terrified him without diapers. He raised and reused piece of clothes, and with 2 babies instead of 1, everything ran short. He wondered if he was failing. For the measure of safety, an acquaintance from a different ethnic group, the Wakite, got the ethnic change of Abraha's identity card. On a paper, he became a wildcat too. It happened just in time when Amhara militia members visited Abraha, showed the altered ID. He addressed him in Amharic, Ethiopian's main language, not daring to speak a word of his native Tigrinya. He also showed them his baby girls. Any suspicion disappeared. The fighters tried to comfort him for his loss. They thought I was one of them, Abraha said. His family was safe for now, but he knew they were hard to leave. The family packed light so the Amara wouldn't not notice they were leaving, Abraha hid a small book of photos under the mattress of the pink bassinet he couldn't bear to leave behind. The family walked into the edges of town accompanied by their Amhara neighbor. He chatted with fingers there. His family is Amara, she said. Sympathetic, the militia unknowingly helped the fleeing Tigrayan family. They stopped a car and arranged a ride, saving Abraha and his children a 6-hour walk to the city of Humera. There, Abraha's family sought milk at the hospital. A fellow Tigrayan quietly suggested they go to Sudan, a 4-hour walk away. Abraha had heard that Amara young militia and soldiers from nearby Eritrea roamed the route. They were very afraid we would be killed, he said. The family started before dawn. They stayed off the roads, asking fellow Tigrayan they met for safest way. Sudan came into sight. Then the narrow Tigray River. Tigrayans jostled 4 places abroad boats to cross the border, but Abraha and the reeling babies were ushered to a boat of their own. As the boat scrapped free of his country, he felt a burden ease. I was 100% sure the babies would grow up, that things would change from that moment, he said. The twins were quiet. They had fallen asleep. Months after arriving in Sudan, the twins lay under tiny mosquito nets on metal frame beds, grinding a fist or smiling at the besotted men who become experts in infant care. But for Abraha, a painful task remained. He had finally reached his relatives inside Tigray by phone for the first time since war began. His family excitedly clamored for details of his wife. Did she give birth? They asked. Yes, twins, Abraha replied, joyful. His family expressed press for more. Boys or girls? Who look like whom? Finally, Abraha calmed down and continued, but he said, I couldn't save her life. His family began to cry. He joined them. He worried about what awful things might have happened to his sister and others who were hiding from him till now. That evening, Abraha returned to what the family called home. He picked up the baby and the girls again and searched their faces for traces of their mother. In the fear and despair following their birth, the twins were left unnamed. Finally, Abraha's young son, Michael, christened them. One of the girls were named Aden or Paradise. The other were named Tefu or Left Behind. This is quite a sad story there, as indeed the kind of trauma we go through when war begins, and I hope it all ends so that we can all live peaceful. So we look at the second allegation of violence in Tigray. So in first joint statement after nearly 6 months of fighting in northern Ethiopian region, Security Council urged unfettered humanitarian access to all people in need. Hundreds of women have reported horrific accounts of rape and gang rape since the start of the conflict. Hundreds of women have reported horrific accounts of rape and gang rape since the start of the conflict in Tigray, nearly 6 months after the eruption of fighting in Ethiopian Tigray region. The United Nations Security Council has issued its first joint statement on the continuing crisis, expressing deep concern about allegations of human rights violations, including reports of sexual violence against women and girls. The 15-member body on Thursday also called for the scaled-up humanitarian response and unfettered humanitarian access to address humanitarian needs, including for people in the embattled region who are in need of food assistance. Today, the Security Council breaks its silence on the ongoing crisis in the Tigray region of Ethiopia, said Geraldine Barren Nasson, Iran's ambassador to UN, who led negotiations over the text. For the first time, the Council speaks with no voice to express its collective concerns about the dire humanitarian situation on the ground. The Security Council has discussed the situation in Tigray behind closed doors several times before. It had not been able to agree on a statement because of opposition from its African members and Russia and China, according to reports citing diplomats speaking on the condition of anonymity. In one of those closed-door sessions last week, the UN top humanitarian officials had said the humanitarian situation in Tigray has deteriorated and warned that the vast majority of the region of 6 million people is completely or partially inaccessible for humanitarian agencies. The conflict is not over, the things are not improving. The conflict is not over and things are not improving, Mark Lowcock had told the council as he gave sobering assessment of the event on the ground, calling the reports of systematic rape, gang rape and sexual violence especially disturbing the alarming widespread. Furthermore, Lowcock said he had received a report of 150 people dying of hunger in one area of southern Tigray, calling it a sign of what lies ahead if more action is not taken. Ethiopia's mission to the UN said in a statement on Thursday that the situation in Tigray is an internal affair regulated by the law of the country, including human rights laws. The statement said that the Ethiopian government is providing significant portion of humanitarian assistance delivered to those in need and will continue to allocate the maximum available resources to stress the commitment to investigate and ensure accountability for alleged human rights violation would be upheld. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed ordered troops into Tigray in November 2020 after accusing leaders of the Tigray then governing party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, of launching an attack to take over the northern command of Ethiopia's military. A senior official of the TPLF, which used to dominate Ethiopia's politics until Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018, accused the federal government and its longtime foe, Eritrea, of launching a coordinated attack against it. Abiy, the winner of the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize, declared victory after federal forces entered the regional capital, Mekelle. On November 28, but fighting has continued and analysts have warned of a prolonged deadlock in a conflict that is believed to have killed thousands of people and left billions in need of aid. For months, the Ethiopian and Eritrean governments denied Eritreans were involved, contradicting testimonies of residents, rights groups, aid workers, diplomats, and even some Ethiopian civilians and military officials. Abiy finally acknowledged the Eritreans' presence in March while speaking to legislators and pledged soon after that they would leave. On Friday, a day after Lowcock said, the UN and its aid partners have seen no proof of Eritrean troops withdrawing. Neighboring Eritrea made its first explicit admission of its role in fighting in Tigray and pledged to pull out its forces. Lowcock said the UN and its aid partners have seen no proof of the Eritrean troops withdrawing. Neighboring Eritrea made its first explicit admission of its role in fighting in Tigray and pledged to pull out its forces. On Monday, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell called on Eritrea to immediately make good on promises to withdraw its troops from the northern region. The United Nations and United States have also demanded Eritrea withdraw its forces from the region without delay. The international community has also pressured Ethiopia to allow greater access for aid agencies to Tigray. In its statement on Thursday, the Security Council said it acknowledged the efforts by the Ethiopian government to provide humanitarian assistance and to provide increased humanitarian access, but recognized nevertheless the humanitarian challenge remains. There are also calls for full investigation into accusation of widespread rights abuses, including sexual violence being used as a weapon of war. We have heard the alarm bells about human rights violations and abuses, in particular sexual violence against women and girls, Nassan said on Thursday. Continued violence, death, and sexual and gender-based violence are unacceptable. Those responsible, no matter their affiliations, must be held accountable, Nasson added. The Ethiopian government has set up a task force to investigate the reports of sexual violence in Tigray, insisting it takes allegations serious. Separately, Ethiopia's state-appointed Human Rights Commission and the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner of Human Rights announced in late March they have agreed to carry out joint investigations in human rights violations and abuses allegedly committed by all parties in Tigray. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been the editorials. Thank you so much for watching.